All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Week 3 review show. I am your host, Stephen Willis, as always, where we talk about games during the week that happened yesterday. Try to keep it to about 10 minutes, and you can just own the water cooler whenever you get back to work on Monday. This is like a little Cliff Notes version, or Cliff's Notes. I think it's Cliff's Notes. But anyway, I want to start out with Nebraska and Oklahoma. Nebraska played a really good game. They have the worst special teams I have ever seen, and I mean that. I mean that nicely. They have the worst special teams I think I've ever seen. I think a missed field goal or two, a blocked extra point, return for 2 points. It was the margin of victory at that point. Scott Frost had his guys out ready to play. He really did. The special teams absolutely let him down. The offensive side from Oklahoma is not what we thought they were. They might turn it on. They might become what we thought they were. They are not right now what we thought they were. And knowing that could make for a fairly long road in Norman, and what would be shortly a Texas and Oklahoma SEC love fest that's planned for a couple of weeks. So we'll see how that goes. Oklahoma did beat Nebraska 23-16. The other main game that we want to talk about is the Alabama-Florida game. Alabama jumped out on Florida 21-3. Whenever the script was involved, it was 21-3. And then once Florida settled down, they dominated that game. They missed a 2-point conversion at the end that would have tied it. Alabama won by 2 points. And historically, you didn't beat Alabama without great quarterback play. That was a necessity to beat Alabama. You look at Bo Wallace, you look at Steven Garcia, you look at Joe Burrow. Those guys, you needed that great quarterback play in order to beat Alabama. Well, yesterday their defense was getting dominated by a one-dimensional Florida team that couldn't really throw the football. That should be a red flag, a major red flag for the Alabama defense, especially in 2 weeks with Ole Miss coming into town. But it was interesting to see a team just run the ball on Alabama. You knew they were going to run the ball. They ran the ball anyway. I think they ran for like 260 yards at the time. And it's just a reminder, these are not the Alabama teams you grew up 10 years ago with. There's, Ole Miss is back-to-back 300-yard rushing games against Alabama, and they're going for 3 in a row, essentially, in Tuscaloosa in 2 weeks. But Alabama did win the game 31-29. They get to stay in the playoff rankings because of it. I didn't drop them. When it comes to that, a struggle win, I don't really deal with that too much. There's 3 teams that are performing like they should playoff-wise. Props to Michigan State, by the way. Sparty goes down to Miami and takes care of Miami. That's another problem we have looking at the situation in Alabama is like, what if Miami is bad? I mean, they got completely rolled against Alabama. They got completely rolled against Michigan State and needed a last-second field goal to defeat Appalachian State. Maybe they're just not very good. And then how does that change how we look at Alabama? If the Mercer game is the only other data point for us until this Florida game that came on that they almost lost. It's kind of an interesting situation. Coastal Carolina struggled with Buffalo, won the game. They're a Sunbelt team. I think we can start dropping those guys down. They've about hit their ceiling on the rankings. There's some that believe that if you win, you go up. If you lose, you go down. But I think they've kind of hit their ceiling. Texas A&M won the game 34-0 over New Mexico. New Mexico was terrible. Saw bust all over the field. They dropped a little bit in the playoff ranking. I think they dropped out of the playoff rankings this week. Was that Calzada? They're getting ready for Arkansas Saturday in what will be a huge game on CBS. I'm already looking forward to it as I sit here just thinking about it. West Virginia beat number 15 Virginia Tech 27-21. Virginia Tech, fool's goal. Michigan 63-10. They're coming in at 25th in the country. It'll be interesting to see what they do. They're bullying people they should bully by playing old-style Jim Harbaugh football. They're not doing the spread stuff they were doing. I think it's because Jim Harbaugh realized he couldn't identify those players. But he has a good grasp of what belongs in his system. but they completely blew out. Cincinnati acting like a top 5 team. Wasn't pretty. Indiana's a good team, but they just punched with them, and then finally pulled away for the win. They're acting like a playoff team at this point. They are Notre Dame away from 12-0 and the playoff, by the way. Good team. Speaking of Notre Dame, they beat Purdue 27-13. This is a script we've all seen before. Clemson, a 14-8 winner over Georgia Tech. I believe they were a 25-point favorite in this game. And Georgia Tech had 4 plays from the 2-yard line to get it in. They would have needed a 2-point conversion if they got it, but there's some issues in the ACC right now. Iowa handled business, beat Kent State 30-7. That's impressive with the style of offense that they play. They're never going to just completely truck you, but they look like they're a good team. And I think there might be a benefit for them in the near future. Ohio State struggled, pulled away at the end. It looked a little bit like the Minnesota game. Arkansas, 45-10 winners over Georgia Southern. I was concerned that Arkansas would have trouble covering a 23-point line after the emotion of the Texas game. There was, way too much celebrating after the Texas game. And because of that, I thought, they'd come out and be sluggish. Well, they weren't. They just kind of bullied and ran over Georgia Southern. Georgia completely dominated South Carolina. We all expected them to completely dominate. They didn't cover, but 40-13 winner there. They're going to retain their spot. North Carolina, a 59-39 winner over Virginia. Yeah, that happened. Big game up in Happy Valley. Penn State, a 28-20 win over Auburn. Auburn, again, they do a good job of accentuating what Bo Nix does well, but Auburn has a Bo Nix problem. Oregon 48-7 over Stony Brook, paycheck game. Ole Miss defeated Tulane 61-21. It could have been 100. They completely took their foot off the gas with like 9 minutes to go in the third quarter. It was kind of impressive. BYU 27-17 winners over Arizona State, and I think the BYU coach is kind of setting himself up to be in the pole position with James Franklin for the USC job if he wants it. Iowa State Cyclones took care of UNLV 48-3. And the upset of the day, Fresno State defeated UCLA. Now, if you're an Ole Miss fan watching this and you're wondering what's going on, I project that you'll be somewhere between 12th and 15th when the polls come out today. They were 16th in the coaches, 17th in the AP. The teams that lost, Virginia Tech lost, UCLA lost, Coastal Carolina struggled. If the pollsters are legit, they will drop the Chanticleers down a little bit, even though that's not really something that happens. But we'll see. Michigan State should be ranked this week. They have a good little ball team. So let's look over at the playoff games real quick. And the playoff rankings for us, Georgia still handling business. They've been our wall-to-wall number one of our playoff rankings. Number 2, Alabama. I didn't want to drop them over a road Florida win, even though if it was closer than the experts think. I bumped Cincinnati up because there's 3 teams that have acted like playoff teams and top 5 teams should. Oregon struggled in the first week, but their Ohio State victory gets them in at number 4. Number 5, Oklahoma, who fell out of the playoff into the number 5, and the Iowa Hawkeyes make an appearance into the top 6. Now, the way we look at these rankings and what we do is based off no preseason hype. It was based off of week 1 and then building off of that week 1. I don't want to jump anybody up too quickly. Like I wouldn't take Ole Miss, for instance, at 16 and bump them into the top 6. That wouldn't make sense unless they won against Alabama or something like that. But as it sits right now, we're trying to logically look at this with wins being the number one criteria. If you win the game, you're not going to be overly punished. And then how are you actually playing? Did you struggle with Tulane in week 1 and then Tulane gets boat raced? Did you struggle with Nebraska? Oklahoma's done that twice. They dropped down a spot out of the playoff. That's our thinking when it comes to that. But I think that there's a chance, and everything's going on, that college football is really close to chaos. I mean, perilously close to chaos. Wonderful, wonderful chaos. And what it will take is either Alabama or Georgia losing a game. If they both do, it's Armageddon, because then every loss that has been taken to this point of the season gets thrown out. So it will be quite interesting what's going on. And also game day, get to Tuscaloosa in 2 weeks. That's all I'm going to say. Because I am extremely confident going into that game right now. Extremely. Good team, great players. There's elite players all over the field. They don't have our guy. They don't have Matt Corral. They don't have a group of receivers. They don't have running backs. Because they fit what we do unbelievably well. It's like Matt Luke, who was recruiting to Rich Rod. His system accidentally got the perfect players for Lane Kiffin's system. It's amazing. Now in the running game, that makes sense. The Snoop Connor, the Snoop Connor, and the Jerry and Ely. The running games are fairly similar. There's inside zone, outside zone, things like that. Not too much crazy stuff going on. But on the outside with Jonathan Mingo, Dontario Drummond, that class of 2019 for Ole Miss, that's unreal. Absolutely unreal. Everybody likes to make fun of that class because they missed on some defensive linemen that left the state or whatever they did. That class is the reason we're here right now and doing what we're doing. Absolutely. It kind of reminds me, honestly, I don't want to compare them to this yet because they haven't played anybody. But the 2019 LSU team, there's a 3-star that they got and developed. There's Jordan Jefferson that was a 2-star out of Louisiana that was a legacy, 3rd generation or 2nd generation or whatever. And these players were going to be there because it was a generational year, but they were going to LSU. There was nothing special that was done. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he was a 3-star. It just so happened that they translated very well, and that is what is going on with that 2019 class. Very impressed. Anyway, this has been the Week 3 review show. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next week. Remember the Palmcast tomorrow, 10 a.m. Central. Bill Flowers, Thursday, 6. And we'll do things like Beast of the East on Monday night, Best of the West Tuesday night, and SEC After Dark Wednesday night. So we got a lot of stuff going on, even though it's a bye week. So stick around and enjoy it. Until then, though, hotty toddy.